All right, Tyler. Want me to host this one?
I got it.
Okay. In three, two, one.
You are listening to Know the Score, brought to you by the CSPN. Tune in to us via iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Podomatic, and any other station that carries us. You know the drill. This is part two, Law and Order. This is going to be one of those shows where we're going to have a lot to talk about in a short amount of time. So let's get to it. I am Tyler Ball. You can find me at TABALL1 on Twitter. My co-host is Don Delarente. You can find him at Don Delarente on Twitter. And of course, the official hashtag and Twitter account is at KTSPOD or hashtag KTSPOD. Okay, Don. Uh, it's been a wild week uh, when you think about what's going on in sports overall. Um, our previous episode, we talked about the AFC South and AFC North, but before all of that happened, some very interesting news from the NFL office came down. Um, since I am a Dallas Cowboy fan, I will speak on it. Um, After a 16-month wait, with incidents dating back to July of last year, and investigations going before then. The NFL announced that Ezekiel Elliott will be suspended for the first 6 games of the 2017 season. Of course, it sparked a lot of debate with the NFL beyond what the police have done and ruled uh, in their situation with Ezekiel Elliott. Uh, just a lot of debate on punishment fitting the crime. Has the NFL overstepped its boundaries? And simple conversations of that nature. Um, my point of view is that Ezekiel Elliott is being punished for two reasons. You can put the fact that he was acquitted or not charged. You can put that to the side for a moment. The NFL does have a right to punish for stupid actions. The Not only the domestic violence situation, even if that's thrown out, he still inappropriately invaded a woman's space at a parade. You can talk about the speeding penalty, which to me is bogus because I think we are all guilty of reckless driving at some point. Those who do operate a vehicle, um, we can consider that barroom fight where he allegedly broke a staffer or a DJ's nose, um, and just other instances where he's just not been a very responsible human being. Um, Taking away my cowboy bias at all, I still believe that the punishment doesn't necessarily fit the so-called crime. Um, I still do believe that there is a right for him to be suspended, but there's a twofold issue with this. Jerry Jones went publicly he decided to challenge Roger Goodell publicly, despite the fact that Roger Goodell has held a pretty much an iron will against any owner who has decided to challenge any type of punishment that dealt he's delivered to a player. Jerry Jones just made a fool out of himself, literally, by saying that he looked at the evidence and he found nothing to be considered. Not only was he found out wrong, but this is an embarrassment. This almost stains his Hall of Fame uh, enshrinement, which was barely a week ago as we're recording. It's it's a reminder of Jerry putting the blinders on, even when his own players have committed atrocities and have been found guilty of them. Uh, it's a sad state, and I don't know if he's really going to be called to be accountable for what he said because it was clearly wrong. Don, you have the floor.
This thing is has so many layers to it. I start with the whole Roger Goodell being the commissioner. I think that was the summer of 2001 where they put that they ran that article in the USA Today and they had all the players who had gotten arrested in that off season. It was like 75 guys. And the outrage, that was the year Pat Man Jones had the incident in the strip club. That was the major one, but all the other ones underneath that as well. And that was kind of when the outcry in the public became, oh, these guys are out of control and they're committing all these crimes and doing all these bad things, and the league is just sitting by and not doing anything. They're not being proactive. They're letting these guys go through the system, and then they're kind of deciding punishments, and it's not necessarily a league thing, it's a team thing, and everybody was just so upset. So we have the perfect storm of Tagliabue retires, and then we get Roger Goodell, who comes in, and his first order of business is, I'm the law and order commissioner. So what that leads to is a new CBA agreement, because in the old agreement under Paul Tagliabue that they had used for years was that the NFL did not consider taking actions against players until they were convicted of crimes. So basically, if you got charged, we won't do anything. If you have to go to trial, we still don't do anything. We won't do anything until these people are convicted of their actions. Then it was up to the team discretion. And then sometimes, if it was a really big issue, the league would jump in. But most of the time, it was a team to team thing. Well, that all changed in a new CBA agreement where they have language in the agreement that says, regardless of a conviction or a charge, if we do our investigation as far as internal NFL investigation, and we feel that you have done something outside of what needs to be done to represent our league, we're going to suspend you. So that's kind of where Zeke has fallen underneath now. He hasn't been charged, he hasn't been convicted, but through the NFL's own investigation, they've determined, hey, you know, this incident with the Ohio State lady, they said that they saw uh, graphical evidence of him using force against her multiple times. This bra incident at the parade documented for everybody to see on a cell phone. The same thing with the club incident. So it's not like, it's a he say, she say incident. It's in two out of the three situations. And so I think what they did was they said, okay, we gave you a break at the beginning of last year by not even considering the investigation until after the season. He gets lucky there. Then he makes the bad decision of being seen at the weed shop, whether he was a tourist or not. It's just not a good decision. And so I think that kind of gave the NFL kind of a little perk up, like, this dude is, not taking a lot of this stuff seriously. And I just think that what they basically did was said, hey, you've had three incidents in your rookie year, and they just gave him 2 games for each incident. They gave him 2 games for the Ohio State incident, 2 games for the bra incident, 2 games for the club incident. Um, and at this point, you also have to realize that this was probably a makeup call for the Josh Brown incident and how they handled that, where Josh Brown was the next player to uh, be charged and convicted of domestic abuse after Ray Rice, and they only got one game when the mandatory was supposed to be, hey, we don't care if you're guilty or not. If the charge comes up for domestic violence, it's automatically 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what this is for the NFL. It's their makeup call for Josh Brown. It's the same way that they, hey, we're going to give Ray Rice a 1 game suspension and everything's all good. Then the video comes out and all of a sudden they do a makeup call.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that it's the avenue of what do you want? 15 years ago it was, hey, these players need to be held in check. I don't care if they get convicted or not. If they're out here acting up, they need to be punished. Well, now that pendulum has swung over to, well, he didn't get charged. He's not going to go to jail for it. There's no criminal charges. Why are they having to do any type of punishment? So, it just shows you just how the sentiment has changed over the 15 years that Goodell has now been the commissioner of the NFL. And as far as Jerry Jones goes, I think Jerry Jones was running some PR, um, you know, trying to get out in front of it, trying to ease the Cowboys fans' mind. Just, hey, we looked at it, we got the same stuff the NFL does, and as far as we're concerned, it's a nothing situation. I think that in his mind, Jerry Jones figured, he'd probably get 2 games, we can appeal it, and they'll maybe give him one, or he might not miss any. And then that way, he comes out looking good on the other side. But NFL security, as a lot of people know, or those who don't know, I mean, this is like one of the highest levels of investigating that we have in our country. If there's anything that they need to know, they will find it out. Just ask Michael Vick.
Yep.
And a lot of times they're actually more thorough in their investigation than the actual people, the FBI or the police that, are involved in the actual case of the player as far as the criminal charges go. So, I just think that Zeke has shown such a lack of awareness in this situation. Like you said, he's just made some bad choices, some bad decisions. I think at some point, when you're such a star athlete on a college campus, you get insulated in a bubble and you can act out, and there's a bubble of people there that can shield you away from all of the punishments that do come with it. But now that you're here in the NFL, you can't operate that way because you play for such a high profile team. You've uh, carried yourself and marketed yourself so that you are a distinct personality now. He does not blend into any type of crowd. I'm pretty sure that if Ezekiel Elliott showed up at some place, random place in the middle of America, people would know who he was. It wouldn't be like an anonymous, tight end or something like that.
He's a
So,
product of Middle America. He played for a Middle America institution at Ohio
right,
State.
right.
Yeah,
So
they're gonna
he's
know who he
got
is.
to, realize now that, hey, man, I can't go out here and, like I said, have this lack of awareness to put myself in these compromising positions because guess what, man? Everybody's going to be looking at me and they've got a cell phone, and whatever I do negative is going to end up, being recorded, and it's going to get me in trouble. And I think that this would be a good learning lesson from him. I think that it'll also maybe he'll have a better appreciation for uh, Dak Prescott and his wisdom. Because I mean, basically, Dak Prescott's whole message to him was, "Hey, dude, lay low, like super duper low. Like, you've gotten this fame, you've gotten this notoriety, this celebrity. The one thing we don't need in this off season is for you to go out here and do something crazy and mess up our chances of you not being available for a part of the season." And that's exactly what he did. So
Yep.
I just think that unfortunately for him, he's going to have to learn, this lesson the hard way. And I don't think that we'll have any problems out of Zeke after this. I think, this is going to hopefully shake him up enough to where, he understands how valuable he is and just how easy this can all be taken away from you. I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
six game checks possibly, and a voided $8 million guarantee. Plus,
Yeah,
he's going to have to replay $1.4 million as part of his prorated signing bonus. Yeah, that's a pretty painful lesson, to say the least.
yeah. So I just think and hopefully, young guys following Zeke will understand too that the NFL doesn't care about what your state municipality finds out. It's all about what they find out. And when they find out that you A have been inconsistent with your story, or B, they find out that hey, this could be a really bad PR hit, they're gonna bring the hammer down on you. And unfortunately, like I said before, they've been kind of been making makeup calls because Josh Brown only got one game, so you knew the next person who got in any type of trouble was gonna get it, and it just unfortunately happened to be Zeke.
Mm-hmm. Well, we will talk about the impact that this has on the Dallas Cowboys specifically in our NFC East preview, which will be approximately 3 weeks from now. But we're going to move forward. Um, I'm going to save some other opinions for my final take, but we'll talk about another major news event. Meanwhile, during the same time that Zeke news was uncovered, three-team trade. Well, two trades between three teams. Uh, Buffalo Bills, Philadelphia Eagles, and the Los Angeles Football Rams uh, made a trade that really changes the fortunes possibly of both teams. Uh, the Bills have decided to move their star wide receiver, Sammy Watkins, who's on the final year of his contract. They declined the option on a 5th year. They're not even going to deal with that 5th year option, so they went ahead and traded him with the Rams, along with a 6th round pick for next year's draft in exchange for starting cornerback EJ Gaines, uh, and a 2018 2nd round pick. Also, the Bills acquired Jordan Matthews and a 2018 3rd rounder from the Eagles for starting cornerback Ronald Darby. Uh, Pretty big deal for the Bills. They decided to make a move that's probably going to be unpopular in the beginning to begin a rebuilding process. They have Tyrod Taylor locked up, so they decided to get a marginally better receiving talent in Jordan Matthews, but they also get a starting corner and a few picks that are going to help them in the future. Uh, any other thoughts on the trade, Don?
With Sammy Watkins moving from the Bills to the Rams, if you're a fantasy football player, load up on Shady McCoy because it looks like that Buffalo is gonna probably be more of a ground oriented attack this year. Now they got a defensive minded head coach, so their whole mantra is probably going to be run the football, play good defense, and Tyrod make one or two deep throws down the field and just keep us at a 3rd and long, just manage the game type approach to their season. So that's going to lead to a lot of touches for Shady McCoy, I think. As far as the Rams go, um, if Goff is gonna ever have a chance to be good in this league, he's gonna need him a top flight receiver. And that's basically what they did, regardless if it's just going to be a 16 game rental or in Sammy Watkins' case, maybe an 8 game rental, depending on how good his foot it really is, if he's healed from the foot problems that have kind of plagued him the last couple of years. I think in terms of the Rams' approach, though, I think they see Sammy Watkins being that their head coach came from the Redskins. I think they see them as their Deshaun Jackson, their guy who can, draw attention, take the top off the defense, big strike type of player. Um, as far as the Bills go, like I said, with getting the Eagles cornerback, it's just going to help them, you know, strip their defense a little bit more because, of course, we've had some, uh, you know, some deficiencies there. And I don't know about Jordan Matthews. I mean, I guess he's okay.
Jordan Matthews was horrible. I had him on fantasy last year. He's awful. He
he
is
was
the
playing with a
epitome.
rookie quarterback though, Tyler. So
No,
come on
no,
now.
no, 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 no. Hold on. Jordan Matthews was awful last year, before last season, even before Carson Wentz came. He is the epitome of why the Eagles wide receivers have the reputation of being the worst wide receiver core in the league. And also, this is pretty much make it or break it for Nelson Aguilar, who's also been borderline bust for the Eagles. So moving Matthews means Aguilar gets to be the number one guy, which means he's got to produce right away, which
Right.
which could help him. But yes, Matthews has been nothing short of disappointing. 2 seasons ago, he was really the talk of. He was one of the few guys that was actually got some pub beyond Odell Beckham Jr.'s rookie season. But yeah, Matthews has been subpar at best.
And the Eagles definitely need cornerback help. So I mean, Ronald Darby going over there should maybe help offset the Byron Maxwell uh you know, acquisition that they have. So, this might actually work out for all three teams. It's very rare to see NFL teams trade players like this and like in the quote unquote season, even though this is still the preseason. But I think actually that all three teams got people that could help them. Um, so, I don't really you have to wait to see how the stats play out and the season plays out. But right now, I don't see anybody that got, the short end of the deal. I think everybody is happy with what happened because the
I
Bills
think that.
don't have to play. They don't have to worry about Sammy Watkins and
Mhm.
having to because if he gets hurt, what a lot of these contracts is if he gets hurt, then he's guaranteed the option year. And so they basically said, okay, instead of doing what the Redskins did with RG3, which was like, oh, you got hurt and now we're just gonna hold you out and not let you play at all. They're basically saying we'll let that be somebody else's problem. And that's smart front office work considering that they're a team that's looking to be in the lower half of the rankings this year and not, on the verge of a playoff berth. Prepare for another season or two from now. So I
Um,
kind of
I'm,
like what they did.
I'm, uh, I think that both the Bills and the Eagles took care of immediate needs. Um, and no, the Bills got a nice foundation of picks for next year's draft. Hopefully, with the picks that they had last year, unfortunately, that got injured, like Reggie Ragland. Uh, I hope those guys actually work out this season. Um, I think they had a pretty solid draft this year. So getting picks does help. Uh, I think the Rams, for what their situation is currently, I think they are a significant loser because you gave up. Not only did you give up a second rounder, you also gave up your other starting corner, and you're likely not going to have your other corner in Tremaine Johnson, who's been franchised twice. So I don't know unless you can find that 6th round pick to be a legitimate starter. Um, I'm just not sure if the value that you got in return for Sammy Watkins was really good enough. Um, I mean, the value that you got in Sammy Watkins is good enough for what you gave up, and particularly when the defense is your strong suit, particularly the secondary. So that's it remains to be seen. I just think that the Rams they may have taken a step back with this move. Um, I really do like the Eagles who were awful in the secondary. They got a serious upgrade. They were actually starting two rookies, and one went down. So that's huge. Getting Darby, and maybe they can limit some of their over the top throws that they gave up, especially to teams like the Dallas Cowboys who have a big play receiver. In other injury news, big loss for the Miami Dolphins. Raekwon McMillan, who who was going to be the starting middle linebacker. He was already calling signals for the defense. Uh, he tore his ACL in the preseason game and was ruled out for the season. He's going to have surgery. Likely replacement is going to be Lawrence Timmons, who was former inside linebacker for the Steelers, or Mike Hill, who's undrafted and was currently he was McMillan's backup. But that's huge for the Dolphins, who have their defensive strength up the middle and at the corners. Um, you know that's pretty big when you lose your signal caller. That's like Dallas losing Sean Lee for 2 years. Um,
Miami basically lost both their signal callers on offense and defense because it was revealed that yesterday late in the evening that Tannehill is going to miss the season. That injury where he wasn't touched and running towards the sideline is a torn ACL. So
wow, wow, wow! How things have changed quickly for
yes,
both the Dolphins and the New England Patriots. Uh, that's going to even elevate the Patriot talk of going 16-0. You know, that just widens the gap between the Patriots and the rest of the AFC East. So Miami already had a brutal schedule to begin with, as we told you, and this makes it even rougher. I think I would probably take a game away from my prediction, and they're going to be borderline competing to get a wild card spot. Um, you know,
I I think a game is being generous. They're gonna have to rely on a guy at quarterback who really wasn't enthused about playing this year. And now not only first it was like, oh, he'll just be insurance if Tannehill has to miss 5 or 6 games or can't be ready for the season. But now he's actually going to be the guy. Oh man.
yeah, yeah. Uh, against 8 teams that have pretty solid secondary. Against you're going to play 8 games against teams that have uh, you're probably going to probably top 8. He's probably going to see Jay Cutler is actually going to see probably 6 of the top 8 secondaries on the schedule. So uh, man, it looks really bad for the AFC East. The Dolphins actually may. Who knows? What if Matt Moore beats him out? Nah, I can't see it.
Nah, man, you don't
Honestly,
necessarily pay a guy $10 million who was preparing to be on Fox NFL Sunday. You don't give him $10 million just to stand up there holding a clipboard.
right.
Because if that was the case, if the thing was for Matt Moore to elevate, then why not pay Kaepernick 5 and have him be the third string emergency just in case something happens quarterback?
Well, Kaepernick wasn't going to be in Miami anyway with the whole
Oh
Fidel
yeah,
Castro.
the Fidel Castro shirt. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not going to, and it's funny because the Castro shirt wasn't even to celebrate Castro. It was to honor the meeting that he had with Malcolm X. But that's neither here nor there.
Right, right.
Uh, in other news, um, in our preview, we talked about the Baltimore Ravens uh, being hit by injuries. We did not mention, but this week, starting left guard Alex Lewis went down. He has decided to have soldier surgery, and he will miss the season. So, I said that somehow I predicted Baltimore being 7-9. Uh, they're going to struggle to get to 6 wins, to be honest. I had to rethink that, but yeah, if they get 7-9, that'll be a remarkable season. And I'm sure you can tune in to the Gridiron Gals and the NFL chick. That would be Rita, who is a Baltimore Ravens fan, and I'll be looking forward to hearing what she predicts for her Ravens. But she is a natural pessimist, so 6 wins. I definitely know that 6 wins will be an achievement. 7 would be outstanding. But I will leave that to Rita to tell you guys on the Gridiron Gals. So stay tuned. In other news, we're rounding down the end of competition for the IAAF World Track and Field Championships. There is really no surprise in the track world that the United States has dominated the World Championships. The medal count currently, as we record, is at 23. No other country has more than 8, and that's overall medals. But that's really not the story. The story going in was Usain Bolt participating in his final race in the 100 meters, which is his signature event. Of course, he is the world record holder, holds the top 3 times in the world in history in that event. The race was seen to be just a swan song, and unfortunately, Bolt met with a couple of tragedies. One of his best friends died during his training in a vehicle accident that took him off training for 3 months, and he also revealed that he's had a nagging back, and it really showed up in the actual 100-meter final, as he had one of his worst starts off the blocks in his career, which allowed Christian Coleman from the USA, who's the current NCAA 60-meter and 100-meter national champ. He took the lead in the race, and Coleman was overcome by his fellow compatriot and veteran Justin Gatlin, who took the gold medal, finally achieving his goal of reclamation of sorts after being disgraced for PED use. He claims that he is fully clean, and to win this race is a major honor and a major degree, and created a major degree of satisfaction in London, especially in a very pro Bolt crowd. Winning this world championship will actually ends up being his send off, as he will likely retire as the current 100-meter world champion. Any thoughts on this race in particular, Don? I know you had some things to say about Usain Bolt, who
It's
actually
just
finished third.
yeah, it's just amazing. Last week, just the lead up to the race, the preliminary race where he lost to Coleman by just a hair, and they were kind of looking at each other as they were coming to the finish line. Had a lot of good memes and stuff. So the buzz on social media for the final was really building up, and it was a must see TV event, which outside of the Olympics you don't really get for track and field. And then just to actually see Justin Gatlin, who's always been the poster child for not good enough when it comes to racing against Usain Bolt, actually pull it off in their final race against each other. I mean, it made for a really good swerve. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Like you said, I think everybody was there to watch Bolt dominate one last time, and for him to get this great send off, and the conquering hero, and passing the torch to whomever else, maybe will be Coleman, who will be the next star of the 100 meters. But he ended up third, and I think that raised the eyebrows of everybody. And like you said, he had one of his worst starts that he's ever had, and he just didn't have enough time to close up the distance. But that being said, he'll probably go down as one of the greatest Olympic athletes of our generation for sure. I mean, he's had a dominance in this event similar to that of Edwin Moses, where, basically everybody knew when they showed up to the track that they were kind of battling out for second place. And I just think that hopefully, in time through whatever he chooses to do now that he won't be in competitive racing, that people don't lose sight of the accomplishments that he's had over his brilliant career. I mean, to hold the three fastest times in the world for this event is definitely a legacy that he should be proud of for sure.
Yeah, breaking 9.6 in the 100 meters is just an incredible feat. But to break 9.5 is just it's hard for people to fathom how incredible that is. And the story will be that at his height, and his height was to see somebody sprint. Uh, he defies physics, being a tall sprinter. So it's already difficult to see if anybody can match what he's done at a world record pace, because scientists really believe that he is a unicorn that has truly stretched the limit of what top level racing can be. Uh, maybe it will take another tall athlete to do it. Who knows? But that barrier that he broke, being at his height, is going to be the story that people will carry on with them, and the fact that he was extremely dominant, not only in the 100 but in the 200 as well. Uh, but that torch has already been passed in the 200. Bolt, with his back issues, did not choose. He chose not to compete in the 200. So the potential next star in the world, South Africa's Wayne van Niekerk, uh, he raised some eyebrows by deciding to compete for the 200 400 double, as achieved by Michael Johnson famously in the 1996 Olympic Championships in Atlanta. Uh, Van Beeker really got close at the end of the day. He was taken by surprise as Turkey's Ramil Guliev uh, took him out in the last 25 meters to win the 200-meter gold. Uh, that was a shock in the track and field world. He was totally not a Guliev literally rose from nowhere to be a threat in the meet. However, Van Niekerk took the 400 meters in cruising fashion. Uh, he is going to be the guy. He's young. He's from South Africa. He's very charismatic, uh, yet humble at the same time. The Olympics really chose to publicize him as part of the story before he went out and broke the world record in the 400. Uh, he looks like he has superstar potential all over him. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in the near future, at least for the next 8 years. Uh, Another story was Tori Bowie, literally coming back within the last 60 meters to win with a terrific lean, literally at the tape, to win the 100-meter women's final. She's been the USA's close but no cigar type woman, as she's played second fiddle to Elaine Thompson and a few others from Team Jamaica. Um, Thompson got off the block slow and finished a disappointing fifth in the race. But Bowie has had the talent, but this is the first time she's really put it all together. And to be the world champion is huge.
Yeah,
Um,
that race was very dramatic.
mm-hmm.
Because it took them a while. It took it like 2 or 3 minutes for them to declare a winner. Everybody was after the race. They were buoys on the ground. The girl who ended up finishing second, who thought she won, she's walking around with her head on her head, hands on her head, and they're like, we haven't announced the winner yet, and they had to go look at the tape several times, and they declared that literally, like tip of the forehead nose, Bowie won with that lean, and just the closing that she had in those last like 50 meters, man, it was amazing because she was in like fourth place when they were coming down to the line, and she really made up a lot of ground. So I mean, that race was very, very exciting.
That was incredible to me. I think the takeaway from it will be that Thompson's had a cloud of invincibility in the 100 in the women's 100. To That loss was a really really bad loss. Um, of course, her teammate Shelly Ann Fraser Price is currently celebrating her pregnancy, and she will be away from the track for a while. So Thompson is really carrying the Jamaican banner for track and field right now because Johan Blake has kind of been overshadowed, of course, by Usain Bolt, and while he is expected to hold down the men's side, uh, Thompson is really the star right now, and for her to finish so poorly uh, sent a real shockwave to Team Jamaica, um, and I'm sure they will regroup and be ready for the Summer Olympics. One other final note from London: the USA's Christian Taylor made history as he became the first man to win the triple jump world championship 3 times. Incredible, considering all the great triple jumpers in history, even in U.S. track and field history. Carl Lewis, uh, Mike Powell Sr. Uh, just those two names alone, to surpass them and get 3 world championships is really a big deal, and I hope that he returns home to some serious recognition because I believe that track athletes are extremely marketable if you present them in the right way. And I think that Allison Felix is a perfect example of somebody who's clearly benefited from being a marketable celebrity via track. And I kind of want to see that on the men's side. Um, Looking forward to Christian Coleman uh, setting the world ablaze again in the 100. He has talked about the 200. Could we see a 100 200 double in the Olympics? We'll, only time will tell. Coleman is being treated as a specialist now as he runs for his alma mater at Tennessee. Um, but anything can happen at the USA Olympic trials, as proven at the last trials where, Allison Felix didn't even qualify for Team USA in her own specialty event in the 200 meters. She had to win gold in the 400. So this is an exciting time in track and field for Team USA. Just a reminder that you are listening to Know the Score here on the CSPN. Don't forget to keep our podcast free by going to the link at cspn.us. And don't forget to shop at our retailers where you ranging from Amazon to Skull Candy to Adam and Eve Toys. Don't forget you can use the code OTOY at Adam and Eve, and you can get a very, very nice discount. I believe it's still 50%. So whatever ever toys that you may need from Adam and Eve as you charge up your intimate life, uh, we would appreciate it if you take advantage of that discount that we have for you. And, a portion of your purchase goes to our bandwidth. So it keeps our costs low, actually free for you. So you can check us out here and support all of our shows here on the CSPN. Don, we're close to wrapping up part two. I think we can go with our final thoughts here. Um, Anything that you'd like to add, considering all that's transpired?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about one of the guys that you put us on to at the end of last season, Tariq Cohen. I use these preseason football games as my kind of scouting, full speed scouting reports for fantasy football, and he really impressed me this past week against the Denver Broncos. Mitchell Trubisky as well looked very good in the work that he put in. But Tariq Cohen got a lot of carries, and he had a lot of long runs, a lot of positive runs, and he looks like he's going to, be a big part of the plans of the Chicago Bears coming up this season. And no good for a local guy right here in Bun, North Carolina. Only got one scholarship offer. Yeah, he went to A&T, put in the work, grinded, and it just goes to show that I always say, it doesn't matter where you are, if you can play, the NFL will find you. And he may be one of those good late round fantasy picks to kind of, you know, late in the draft, you got to round out your team. He might be a good guy to kind of pick, and it may not pay dividends in the first 4 or 5 weeks, but towards the end of the season, playoffs, when you really need those guys who get in the end zone, he may be one of the guys who helps you win the championship in your fantasy league. So a big shout out to Tariq Cohen. Hopefully he continues to have good health and a lot of success in the NFL.
Cohen's an amazing story. As you guys know, I'm an Aggie, and of course, I've been following Tariq as when he stepped in on our campus. Uh, he wasn't even projected to be the guy, as the former school all-time leading rusher was still on campus, um, in Mike Mayhew, uh, to close out his career. Tariq literally took this job from the all-time leading rusher in A&T history, his freshman year, and ever since then, he was just a superstar. Uh, very elusive, very explosive, dangerous in the open field, as some folks saw last night. I mean, Thursday evening at watching the Bears. Um, I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually looking forward to him catching passes, as he's being compared to Darren Sproles. Uh, because he's small and just quick, and can literally cut on a dime. In respect to Shady McCoy's handle on Twitter, but I'm looking forward to him seeing great things as well. But I'm here to cast my final thoughts on just a couple of things. Before I do that, just want to give you a look at the wild card standings in baseball real quick. Going into, as of yesterday, the New York Yankees are 60-53. Seattle is 59-57. Tampa Bay is 59-57. Minnesota is 57-56. Los Angeles Angels are 58-58. Kansas City is 57-57. And you have Baltimore and Texas bringing up the rear at 57-58 and 54-59, respectively. In the AL, the play has been pretty much terrible by everybody in the wild card race. Uh, Boston with a current 8-game winning streak. They've laid waste to their fellow division leader Cleveland. The White Sox, who are basically a AAA team, and also Tampa Bay. And now you've got a very interesting back-to-back couple of weekends where they face the New York Yankees in a series that's going to affect the AL East and also the wild card standings. In the National League, there are really only two teams to be concerned about as far as the wild card. You have Colorado and Arizona. Diamondbacks have kind of run into a disastrous turn of events. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They lost 2 to the worst team in baseball, the San Francisco Giants, and also 2 to the Dodgers at home in the past 5 days. And now you got the Cubs coming in for 3 uh, game series, and then you got 4 games with the Astros, and then 3 at the Twins. So this is a make it break it time for the Arizona Diamondbacks, as you know, they could be, if they come out of this slate over 500, they'll still be in the wild card race. If not, I mean, you can pretty much pencil in Colorado as your top wild card, and they'll have home field advantage when they take on the second wild card team. So, uh, pretty interesting few weeks as we look into September and then eventually October in the baseball season. My final thought goes into the Colin Kaepernick situation. As folks know, I've been a supporter of Kaepernick. I totally agree with what he stands for. I also am with the masses believing that he's been blackballed. But let's go into a different part of this conversation. This discussion of boycotting the NFL and not watching. My personal belief is that while not watching serves as a good piece of conscience, I understand how people feel about the NFL, but I also understand about those players who decide to play in the league. After all, it is their job. I'm choosing to watch the NFL to support them. I mentioned guys like Tariq Cohen. I mentioned the several Aggies that are involved in the NFL on my Twitter feed in the past couple of days. I choose to support them. I choose to support players who make a contribution to society and still speak out against the atrocities in America, like a Richard Sherman or the Bennett brothers or Brandon Marshall, who also took a knee with Colin Kaepernick. I also believe that talks of a boycott are neutralized when these same persons who talk about boycott choose to support the 32 league-wide sponsors, using the Verizon phones to tweet, driving Hyundai cars, or drinking Pepsi, or supporting the Pepsi Cola Corporation. If you're not going to give up those conveniences, then don't come for me and question my morals because I choose to support the players that play a game, that do a job, that entertain. You want to question the consistency of people who watch football? Look at the list of those 32 sponsors and then question your consistency. For myself, Tyler Ball, TABALL1 on Twitter. For my co-host, Don Delarente, Don Delarente on Twitter. That's So Jesse, and you can find her at That's So Jesse on Twitter. And Dubias Wilborn and Wilborn19 on Twitter. And the KTS Pod Twitter, which is at KTSPOD. You now know the score. That's it.